In this video here, I'm going to be covering my top 3 Android tablets. So these models here are my personal picks here, the ones that I have reviewed. They have fully laminated panels on them, so they do look a lot better than the non-laminated cheaper tablets that you will find. So we have right here the Lenovo P8, also known as the Tab 3 Plus. 8-inch screen, it has 3 GB of RAM, powered by Snapdragon 625. And it has 16 GB of storage. It's got a plastic build on it, but not a bad build at all. Now, all of these tablets have wireless AC. They also have micro SD cards on them for expanding your storage, and you're adding your files onto them as well. And then we've got TechTablets Master T8 here. Now, sorry, the Master T10. The T8 didn't make the cut for this review because the screen's got a bit of a greenish tint on them, but this one doesn't have that kind of problem. So this one here runs Android 7. And we've got a relatively stock ROM on there. It has 4 GB of RAM and a MediaTek on here. It's a hexa-core, the most powerful tablet out of these 3 that I'm reviewing. And then we have, it's hard to overlook this one because of its price, we have the Mini 4S. Now this one has a 4:3 aspect ratio screen on here. It's the same exact screen as you'll find in an Apple Mini, iPad Mini 4. So it's got a really nice resolution on it. And again, it's fully laminated, metal build on it. It only has 2 GB of RAM, a Rocktech 4-core chip on there, which isn't the fastest out of these 3, but it can't really be overlooked because of the build quality, the screen, and what you're getting for the price. Now, this one has been selling as low as 89 US. I think it's selling for around about 100 at the moment. Now, taking a look at performance here, now benchmarks aren't everything, but in synthetic benchmarks here, this is Antutu, you can see that the Master T10 is definitely the leader here, around about 30,000 points faster than the i5 Mini 4S. So this has a MediaTek 8176 hexa-core in here. This has a Rocktech chip in there. It's quad-core with the Mali T760 GPU. The GPU on this one is the Mali T880. And then we have a Snapdragon 625 on here, which you normally find in mobile phones on the Lenovo P8. So this one, coupled with 3 GB of RAM, the Adreno 506 GPU, puts out decent performance, but the difference is definitely clear when we've got 4 GB of RAM here and only 2 on this one. The multitasking and just the UI and things feels a lot quicker on the Master T10. Now, in terms of the ROM, so we've got Android 6 on both of these models here, and then we have Android 7 on the TechTablets. Now, the TechTablets does have a few bloatware applications. You get about 5 or 6 of them, but you can uninstall all of them apart from one. The i5 Mini 4S is definitely the best in this regard. This one has no bloatware whatsoever, a super light ROM, and the Lenovo is probably the worst. We've got a couple of things on here like some antivirus programs and just a few other bloaty apps and things that we probably don't really need on there to start with. But overall, the ROMs are kind of stock like. They don't have custom launchers, which is really good. On to battery life. So the Master T10 will of course win here because it does have a much larger battery capacity. We've got 4,800 milliamp hours on the i5 Mini 4S, 4,250, and then on this one, 8,400. So a much larger capacity there. You can get around 8 hours of screen on time on the Master T10, about 5 hours, up to 5 hours on the Mini 4S there, and then around 6 to 7 on the Lenovo, which for the kind of size of battery it has is not bad at all. It just shows you how energy efficient that Snapdragon 625 is. So while the TechTablets Master T10 does have a GPS module in there, it lacks a hardware compass, which is something the Lenovo has here. The Mini 4S doesn't have any GPS hardware at all, so that's a clear winner here. If you must have GPS and it performs well, go for this Lenovo here because of that compass on there, and the GPS performance with the Snapdragon just seems to be so much better than MediaTek's GPS. Now, all 3 of these tablets can get playable gaming frame rates in all the games that I tested, so modern titles, demanding titles, but the performance is probably the best and smoothest I found on the Lenovo P8 because of its lower resolution. So it's 1920 by 1200 that it has to drive. Just makes it a little bit easier for that Adreno 506 GPU. But because we also have the 4 GB of RAM, and I did find that the Mali T880 performs quite decent as well on the Master T10, It's also very smooth. You can play games like World of Tanks and all that, smooth playable frame rates. If you want more details on this, please check the review of each individual tablet. And when it comes to speaker performance, the Lenovo P8 also is the only one that has Dolby Atmos, has the best sounding speakers quality-wise. They're not the loudest. The loudest actually turns out to be the TechTablets Master T10. And the speakers on the i5 Mini 4S, they are okay, they're adequate, they're not its greatest strength. It also has some interference over the 3.5mm headphone jack. Moving on to the screen quality. Now, you can't go wrong with either three of these tablets. They've got very decent screens in them. The highest resolution one is on the Master T10, and it is in fact, to me, the best looking screen. Very nice colors, deep blacks. Now, touch response on all three of these models, again, is decent. And really, you can't go wrong with either of these when it comes to screen quality. Now, if I'm to pick a winner, it will be the Master T10 for its screen, for the build quality, but I like the fact that it has the HDMI out on here, which is one thing I do like to have on tablets. Now, because it is larger, it has a better battery life than the other models. And TechTablets have been quite active pushing out software updates. We're on to about update number, I think 5 or 6 now, so they've been fixing some of the minor little problems with there. Now, things that you can't fix, the cons of this tablet, would have to be the port location, which is definitely a bit of a con here. I don't particularly like the location of the charging port and then the HDMI out at the top. And then, of course, the fingerprint reader on the back there is very awkward to use. I just prefer using a pin with this, to be honest, because, you know, that location, that is really bad. It's rubbish. It shouldn't be there. It should be on the front, just below the screen. It also has the best cameras. If you do want the better camera of these three tablets here that I'm covering, then this one definitely for sure, because it's got a 13 megapixel front-facing camera. Skype calls tend to look a little bit better. If you're into taking selfies with a tablet, they will also look a little bit better there as well. So overall, those are the three tablets. They are my top picks for 2017. It doesn't necessarily mean that these are the best tablets that you will find with Android. No, it's just the ones that I have personally covered and reviewed on the channel here. So I hope to see you back with more up and coming videos. And if you do like the kind of content I cover and you haven't before, why not think about subscribing? Bye for now.